Interesting times.
For the headlines.
Investigators probing the Catholic cathedral bombing that killed several people in the Philippines' restive south said a group tied to notorious Islamist Abu Sayyaf is the prime suspect.
Venezuela's self-proclaimed President Juan Guaido calls for 2 new protests in an effort to turn the military against leader Nicolas Maduro and back a European ultimatum demanding free elections.
Fears of a second
homeless in Canada. Our ABC correspondents there will bring us the update.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. The Islamic State claimed bombing of a Catholic cathedral that killed 20 in the Philippines' restive south put fresh pressure on peace efforts aimed at ending decades of separatist violence. 2 explosions tore through the cathedral, shattering pews and windows on the Muslim-majority island of Jolo, killing worshippers at a Sunday Mass and security forces in one of the nation's worst bombings in years. Experts voiced concern over the impact the attack would have on a decades-long push for peace that culminated last week in voters approving expanded Muslim self-rule in the South. The vote was the result of negotiations started in the 1990s with the nation's largest rebel group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, and will give it considerable power over the so-called Bangsamoro region. The ISIS claim in a formal communique said 2 suicide bombers had detonated explosive belts, according to the site intelligence group, which monitors jihadist activities. But a military report said the second bomb was left in the utility box of a motorcycle in the parking area outside the church. Police said they believe the explosives were detonated remotely. Despite the contradictions, authorities have not ruled out ISIS involvement. Malacanang condemned the bombings.
The law will not give them mercy. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth until every killer is placed behind bars. The AFP will crush them. No amount of terrorism can stop the journey to peace. And we condole, we express our sincerest and heartfelt sympathies to the families of the victims. And we will do everything possible to give justice to those who have perished. And all government agencies have been directed to attend to the families. I'd like to acknowledge receipt of expressions of sympathies, condolences, and support from many countries of the world in relation to the tragic bombing that caused the lives and injuries to many people. Particularly those that I have read from Australia, Canada, and Ambassador Daniel Price of the Great Britain. And I would like to express our thanks also to our Pope, expressing also his sympathy. Well, they're saying that martial law, despite martial law, there has been bombing, and therefore martial law should be lifted. With more reason, martial law should be in place, because if you can do that under a martial law regime, then the more reason you should maintain it and be more strict in the implementation of security measures in that area.
The Philippine National Police is on heightened alert nationwide after the deadly blast in Jolo, Sulu that left 20 persons dead and 112 others wounded Sunday. PNP spokesperson Senior Superintendent Bernard Banak said the alert status is being implemented to ensure that no similar attack would be carried out in other regions.
The PNP Chief, Police Director General Oscar David Albayalde, has placed the entire Philippine National Police under nationwide heightened alert, effective midnight of January 27, 2019, in the aftermath of the Jolo Cathedral explosion. The alert condition aims to ensure that no similar plans of terrorist groups will be carried out in other regions.
With the heightened alert status, police are also mandated to intensify intelligence, search and checkpoint operations, and to strictly implement the election gun ban. Policemen are also not allowed to go on leave. Banak said the regional directors were also instructed to initiate further security measures to preempt and prevent similar incidents to happen in your areas. They were also given discretionary authority to raise alert conditions in their areas of responsibility as deemed necessary. PNP Chief Director General Oscar Albayalde flew to Jolo to check on the ongoing probe into the explosion. He said investigators are gathering pieces of evidence for the possible identification of the group or suspects behind the blast.
Yes, nagmimisa, halos nasa second reading pa lang daw. Halos nasa second reading pa lang daw nung pumutok itong unang IED. Halos puno daw dahil yung daw mga ganon ay yun ang madalas na pinupuntahan ng tao yung oras na yun, yung second mass. So ang thinking ng pare, more or less mga nasa 100 yung nasa loob.
To other news now, fears of a second dam breach at a Brazilian mining complex receded Sunday, enabling the search to resume for the more than 300 people still missing, 2 days after a dam collapse that has killed at least 58 people. Loudspeakers rang out at 5:30 a.m. local time among homes surrounding the Correio do Feiao mining complex in southeastern Brazil, warning of dangerously high water levels, according to mine owner Vale. Workers at the complex are still reeling after a barrier at the site burst on Friday, spewing millions of tons of treacherous sludge and engulfing buildings, vehicles, and roads. Firefighters halted the search for survivors and immediately began evacuating communities near the dike, which contains at least 3 million cubic meters of water. But several hours later, civil defense officials gave the all clear. Dozens of helicopters were set to be deployed because the thick mud was too treacherous for ground rescuers. Officials said so far, 192 people have been rescued alive, 23 of whom were hospitalized with injuries. President Jair Bolsonaro flew over the devastated zone on Saturday, later tweeting that it was, quote, difficult to not be emotional before this scene. The disaster was the first big emergency faced by Bolsonaro and his government since he took office in early January, and it may be one of the deadliest disasters in Brazil's history. After overflowing a second dam, the muddy mass barreled down toward Brumandino, but only glanced along the town's edge before roaring through vegetation and farmland, smashing houses and swallowing tractors and even roads in its path. Brazilian judicial authorities announced they had frozen $3 billion of Vale's assets, saying real estate and vehicles would be seized if the company could not come up with the full amount. The company also has been hit with fines by the federal and state government totaling some $92.5 million.
Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro rejected demands by European countries to call elections within 8 days in an interview broadcast on Sunday, insisting that his country was not tied to Europe. Spain, Germany, France, and the UK issued Maduro an ultimatum to call fair elections on Saturday. All four countries tweeted roughly the same statement, saying that Maduro has 8 days to call just, free, transparent, and democratic elections, or the countries would recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president of Venezuela. They warned they would recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as president unless Maduro calls elections within 8 days. Israel has also given its backing on the interim president. On Saturday, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged all nations to end financial dealings with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and called for recognition of opposition leader Juan Guaido.
We hope that every nation will join us in recognizing interim President Juan Guaido. We hope, too, that each of those nations will ensure that they disconnect their financial systems from the Maduro regime and allow the assets that belong to the Venezuelan people to go to the rightful governors of that state.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's self-proclaimed interim president Juan Guaido called for a new round of protests Wednesday and Saturday against elected leader Nicolas Maduro and for free elections. In a video posted on Twitter, the head of the opposition-controlled National Assembly called for a peaceful strike Wednesday to paralyze the country, followed by a big national and international rally Saturday. The second on Saturday will be a big national and international rally to back the support of the European Union and the ultimatum from Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, and Spain, and the Netherlands that they would recognize Guaido as interim president unless Maduro calls elections by February 3.
Tenemos dos acciones esta semana, el miércoles y el sábado. Nos han preguntado por qué no todos los días. Estamos en un proceso en Venezuela donde también tenemos que luchar por comer, que también tenemos que luchar por nosotros sobrevivir en el día a día. Urgimos a Michelle Bachelet como la alta comisionada de los derechos humanos a que no demore su visita a Venezuela. Es necesario que constate en primera persona lo más pronto posible la trágica y sistemática violación de derechos humanos que el usurpador de la presidencia ejerce.
Venezuela's military attaché in Washington, Army Colonel Jose Luis Silva, switched his support to Guaido in a video that called on his brothers in arms to follow his lead. Take a look.
El día de hoy me dirijo al pueblo de Venezuela y en especial a mis hermanos de la Fuerza Armada Nacional con la finalidad de reconocer como único presidente legítimo al presidente Juan Guaidó. Esto basado y apegado a la Constitución de nuestra República, por la cual nadie, ninguna persona o institución puede estar por encima. Únicamente Dios está por encima de nosotros y de la Fuerza Armada. Por favor, hermanos, no ataquen a nuestro pueblo. El Estado nos dio las armas para defender a nuestro país, no para atacar a nuestros iguales.
International support for Guaido grows. The United States, along with several Latin American and European Union countries, refused to recognize Maduro's re-election. When Guaido proclaimed himself acting interim president, U.S. President Donald Trump quickly recognized him. Other countries, including Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, and Australia, quickly followed. On Sunday, Israel said it would recognize Guaido as president. 6 European countries, Spain, France, Germany, Britain, Portugal, the Netherlands, on Saturday demanded that either Venezuela call elections within 8 days or they would recognize Guaido as interim leader. Some European countries, such as Greece, still support Maduro. The head of the Washington-based Organization of American States, Uruguayan Luis Almagro, also gave his support to Guaido.
Russia sought Saturday to block a United Nations Security Council meeting on Venezuela, accusing the United States of plotting a coup against President Nicolas Maduro. Its bid quickly failed, with 9 of the 15 Security Council members agreeing to hold a session attended by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
По сути, у нас на глазах бесцеремонно, с нарушениями всех норм международного права, Вашингтоном осуществляется попытка совершения государственного переворота в этой стране.
The Russian government has also denied that it has sent mercenaries to protect the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. Russia has thrown its diplomatic weight behind Maduro in recent days, criticizing the U.S. for violating Venezuela's sovereignty by supporting the leadership claim of opposition leader Juan Guaido. Russia spent billions to build up its influence in Venezuela, and there are concerns that regime change could raise that investment. The country has invested an estimated $17 billion in cash, strapped South American nations such as that, or much of that, in loans. In 2017, Russia agreed to restructure more than $3 billion of Venezuelan debt, and the Russian oil giant Rosneft has loaned a similar amount to PDVSA. The state-owned oil company Rosneft also holds shares in Venezuelan oil production.
To other news now, a rare and powerful tornado that struck Havana killed 3 people and left 172 injured, according to Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Diaz-Canel, who toured the darkened streets of Havana in the pre-dawn hours visiting emergency crews, wrote on Twitter that damage to the Cuban capital from the late Sunday tornado was severe. The tornado overturned vehicles, uprooted trees, knocked down lampposts, and left parts of the city in the dark. In the city's Luyano neighborhood, storm debris, including parts of a balcony, ripped off an old building, blocked the streets, according to AFP photographers. The tornado, spawned by a powerful storm that originated in the Gulf of Mexico, hit western Cuba with winds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. Armando Caimares with the Institute of Meteorology said people described the tornado as having, quote, the sound of a jet engine, and reported feeling changes in the environmental pressure when it arrived.
A tornado hit the Turkish resort of Antalya, injuring a dozen people, overturning buses and damaging airplanes at the airport, with officials warning on Sunday of the risk of more bad weather. After the tornado battered the area in the south on Saturday, Antalya Governor Monir Karaloglu said 12 people were injured and 2 buses were blown over at the airport. 2 planes and a police helicopter were also partly damaged, Karaloglu said. It was the 5th tornado in 3 days, the governor's office said. The governorate on Sunday warned the public on Twitter that the risk of another tornado, as well as strong winds, flooding, and lightning remained in the province's east. Turkish state news agency Anadolu had reported that 2 people had died after a tornado hit Kumluka in Finike districts, while at least 10 others were wounded. Search and rescue teams on Sunday were looking for a 20-year-old university student who went missing after her car was hit by the tornado as she was on her way to visit her mother and father. Environment Minister Murat Kurum said 315 buildings had been damaged in the past 2 days in the province because of bad weather. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Sunday said during a rally in Antalya that the material damage had reached nearly 100 million Turkish lira.
Continuing its commitment to help residents of Canada fight poverty, Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, reaches out and brought some relief to the homeless men, women, and children in a safe harbor homeless shelter. Tiffany Alisasis reports.
Today we are here in Red Deer, Canada. Members of the Church of Christ donate relief boxes for the Safe Harbor Homeless Shelter.
Micaela Pedirnos, a member of the church, explains her experience and the impacts felt in today's outreach.
I feel very happy that we were able to be a part of an event such as this. It's really good to see everybody being united and coming together to help people who are in need. I think this is a very beneficial event for the community, especially Red Deer, because they are able to see the Church of Christ and our events that we take a part in and how united we are as a congregation and as a district.
Safe Harbor also provides affordable housing to people transitioning away from homelessness. Joyce Venturina shares why the Church of Christ has events like this.
Well, it's part of the commandment of God. We were told to also help other people, not just the people in the church. So as members in the Church of Christ, it is important for us to follow this duty as well.
Dale Vargas, a minister of the church, tells how they prepared for this event.
Well, we had our devotional prayers, and also through our group overseers, we were able to visit all the brethren, and all the families were able to give donation goods. Well, we believe that this is the second greatest commandment, to help our neighbors and to love them. And we're not just feeding them with the words of the Lord God, but also food for their physical bodies.
Church members from Red Deer, Rocky Mountain House, and Panoka worked together to collect food and clothing donations for the Safe Harbor Society.
Despite the cold weather, it doesn't stop the members of the Church of Christ from doing good for their community. Reporting from Red Deer, Canada, I am Tiffany Alisasis, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
What we call Eaglenews.PH, one of the most famous landmarks here in Stavanger, Norway. And if you want to see more of the tourist spots like this, just tune into Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 p.m. I am managing Mihia from Stavanger, Norway, always fun with 25.
Welcome back. Philippine-based businesses are the most optimistic in Southeast Asia in terms of outlook on the local economy this year, and that is according to Grant Thornton's International Business Report, or IBR. The IBR recently reported that 66% of surveyed businesses in the country are positive about the Philippine economy this year, even higher than the optimism in ASEAN, which stood only at 42%. The optimistic outlook in Indonesia posted at 61%, Malaysia and Vietnam both at 38%, and Singapore at 18%. Businesses in Thailand were pessimistic about their local economy, as net optimism was recorded at -1%. The Grant Thornton report said global outlook for businesses this year is also more reserved, with a cooling off economic cycle and political uncertainties around the world. It noted that, quote, economic uncertainty is identified by business leaders as the biggest risk, peaking at 50%, a rise of 22% from second quarter 2018. This can be partly attributed to geopolitical tensions such as the U.S.-China trade war. Grant Thornton global leader Francesca Lagerberg said, while global financial markets are increasingly volatile, business leaders in the real economy remain optimistic because global GDP is forecast to continue growing and they know their businesses will grow with it. Despite increasing downside risk, economic fundamentals remain strong and opportunities exist.
Spanish riot police used cranes on Monday to clear a major thoroughfare in Madrid that was blocked by striking taxi drivers. The drivers have been on strike since last week to demand tighter regulations for app-based ride-hailing services like Uber. Dozens of riot police were wearing crash helmets and carrying shields descended on the Central Paseo de la Castellana and, with the aid of the cranes, removed taxis which were blocking the key boulevard which runs north-south through the Spanish capital. Despite the tensions between the taxi drivers and police, there was no violence. After the first vehicles were removed, drivers at the head of the column of taxis slowly started to drive away while honking their horns, according to an app reporter at the scene. Like their counterparts in many other European countries, Spain's taxi drivers say that ride-hailing apps like Uber or its main Spanish rival Cabify have made it impossible to compete. Madrid taxi drivers began to open-ended strike on January 21 and had threatened to block traffic in the Spanish capital on Monday with the help of others who have joined them from cities across Spain. Barcelona taxi drivers called off a 6-day strike on Thursday after the regional government of Catalonia unveiled new regulations which makes it possible for cities in the region to require customers of ride-hailing services to book a ride at least an hour in advance.
Dubai International Airport said it retained its top global spot in 2018 after serving the largest number of passengers for the 5th year in a row, despite falling short of its target. Traffic at the major transit hub rose slightly to 89.15 million passengers, up just over 1.0% on the number who used the airport in 2017, according to its statement. Although the figure is a new record high, it missed on the 90.3 million passengers Dubai Airport had projected for 2018. Indians retained the top position with 12.28 million passengers last year, and Saudis came in second with 6.47 million travelers, overtaking Britons. Passengers from East Europe made the largest growth with 16.7%, followed by the Commonwealth of Independent States and Africa, according to the statement. In 2017, traffic at the world's busiest airport grew by 4.6 million passengers, or 5.5%. Dubai's non-oil-based economy has faced a slowdown in the key real estate and tourism sectors. Dubai International, the base for Dubai-owned carrier Emirates, and its budget airline Fly Dubai, overtook London's Heathrow Airport in terms of international passengers in 2014 and has maintained its lead since.
Russian authorities Monday arrested a man they believe stole a painting by the famous 19th century artist from a busy Moscow museum in broad daylight a day earlier. State television aired footage of a man calmly taking a work by Russian landscape painter Arkhip Kunzi off the wall at Moscow's Tretyakovka Gallery before carrying it through a room filled with visitors. In the second serious security incident at the gallery in the past 8 months, the gallery said the painting was snatched at around 6 p.m. on Sunday during opening hours. The painting, depicting the Petri Mountain in Crimea, was completed between 1898 and 1908. The Russian Interior Ministry said a 31-year-old man was detained in a village outside Moscow. The man told police he hid the painting on a construction site from where it was recovered, it said in a statement. Police are working to establish if he had any accomplices.
Narito na ang umaga.
220,000 Filipinos live in Hong Kong, most of whom are household workers. Most of them describe almost impossible to find themselves physically alone, but the feeling of loneliness, therefore, is that of being away from home, miles away from their family, and their feeling of being homesick. That's why it was a welcome relief for them when Iglesia Ni Cristo members held a tribute by holding an aid to humanity, especially for OFWs. At the scene is Hansley Rivera.
The Church of Christ, Iglesia Ni Cristo, held its aid for overseas Filipino workers here in Hong Kong. The Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, held an aid for the overseas Filipino workers here in the District of Hong Kong at a Sunday afternoon on the 27th of January 2019. It was held in the Asia World Expo in Lantau Island with a seating capacity that can accommodate to over 5,000 people. The large venue was filled with thousands of brethren. Along with them are their fellow guests, in which are their loved ones, family, and friends. The brethren, especially the guests and visitors, were inspired and enlightened. The guests were given free lunch boxes, and they were entertained by performers from the Philippines. The brethren and guests were full of excitement and joy as they enjoyed all of the performances. To conclude the event, the guests, especially hundreds of overseas Filipino workers, line up to be given free bags of goods that contains food and things for their basic necessities to help them here in Hong Kong. Big smiles on the face of the guests reflected their thanks and gratitude as they received the bags of goods.
Maganda siya, feel ko talaga na parang gumaan yung pakiramdam ko, yung loob ko. Tsaka parang ngayon uuwi ako na yun parang maganda na yung ko na papasok magtatrabaho. So sana makayanan ko pa at sana makakaatin pa ako ng ganitong event ulit.
Nakakaramdam ko ng loob para pong may something na nawala sa dibdib.
The brethren and guests here in the District of Hong Kong are very thankful to the church administration for their love and concern, especially to our fellow men here in Hong Kong. The brethren promise to always be one with all the activities launched by the church administration. From Hong Kong, I am Brother Hansi Rivera, reporting for Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
If you see a video of a politician speaking words he never would utter, or a Hollywood star improbably appearing in a cheap adult movie, don't adjust your television set. You may just be witnessing the future of fake news. Deep fake videos that manipulate reality are becoming more sophisticated due to advances in artificial intelligence, creating the potential of new kinds of misinformation with devastating consequences. Paul Shar, a technology expert at the Center for New American Security, says over the next 2 years, we will see deepfake videos play a role in political campaigns in the United States and Europe. Watch this.
Even if they would never say those things. So, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some, for instance.
To me, this is a very realistic looking video. Did President Obama say those things? No. But it looks pretty realistic. It's a realistic video because it's called a deep fake. That's a fake video that uses deep learning technology that's based on machine learning and deep neural networks. Some of this is because what they're doing in this instance is they're capturing what you see someone else is doing. So this is actually just transferring the actions of an actor into Obama with Obama's voice and face. Security researchers could tell the difference between whether this is fake or real, but to an average person, this could easily fool them into believing that a video like this might be real, particularly in today's age of tribalism and increased retreat to sort of preferred news sources. In normal people, you can actually see, if you look closely enough and use the right kind of tools, changes in the coloration based on the pulse of someone's blood flowing through their skin. Those don't occur in deepfake videos, so that's one telltale sign. Another one is, a lot of the deepfake videos, the people don't blink. Where that goes going forward is really an open question because it's very much an arms race between those who are creating these videos and security researchers who are trying to build effective tools of detection. I think it's very likely that over the next 2 years we will see deepfake videos play a role in political campaigns in the United States and Europe. That as this technology gets better, we're going to see people creating fake videos to try to influence a campaign one way or another, smear a candidate, and that's going to be a particular challenge for democracies to respond to.
The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Huli ng MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Itan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCV, rated responsable.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Nakita po namin yung problema sa iba't ibang panig ng lansangan ng lungsod ng Maynila. Nakita namin yung mga kabataan sa lansangan, hindi lamang sa isang lugar, kundi sa iba-ibang street ng Manila. So nag-isip ang Manila Police District na maglunsad ng isang programa upang matugunan ang problema nito. Na kung minsan makikita po natin naging viral pa ang pagkaka-involve ng kabataan sa mga krimen, sa mga kaguluhan, rambol. Kaya sa panguna po ng mobile force ng Manila Police District, nagsagawa kami ng isang programa na tinawag ng Mobile Library.
Masasabi ko po yung kumbaga yung laging binabalita. Sabi-sabi na pag nakakita ng pulis ng movie, tumatakbo. So dito po kabaligtaran, mabilis yung transition, mga 1 week after nung activity namin, susunod na week, doon namin naramdaman na welcome pala kami sa mga bata na to. Kasi pag nakita pa lang nila sa Ross Boulevard the mobile, pag sumampa na sa gutter, sila mismo yung sumasampa dun sa library, papunta dun sa destination namin. Kaya natutuwa po kami.
In tennis, an imperious Novak Djokovic won a record magnificent 7 Australian Open title by routing Rafael Nadal 6-3, 6-2, 6-3 Sunday with a display of flawless tennis. The Serbian world #1 dominated the Spanish second seed to win his 15th Grand Slam title in just 2 hours 4 minutes on Rod Laver Arena. It put Djokovic 31 out on his own ahead of Roger Federer and Roy Emerson, who both won 6 Australian Open men's singles titles. His victory extended his win-loss record against Nadal to 28-25 and squared the Grand Slam final count between the pair at 4-4. Djokovic has now completed a hat-trick of slams following his wins at Wimbledon and the US Open. He will go to Paris in May for the French Open, seeking to become the only man in the Open era to win all 4 majors twice. Meanwhile, Japan's Naomi Osaka said she was in a state of shock Saturdays after holding her nerve to a battle past Petra Kvitova and win the Australian Open in a 3-set thriller that also gives her the world #1 ranking. The 4th seed and US Open champion triumphed 7-6, 5-7, 6-4 in a 2-hour 27-minute game against Czech 8th seed to claim the back-to-back Grand Slams and become the first Asian male or female to hold the top spot. Melbourne Park erupted in thunderous cheers as the Japanese youngster fell to one knee and head bowed before collecting the trophy from China's Lina, who lifted the same silverware in 2014, 3 years after becoming the first Asian to win a major at Roland Garros. Rather than tearfully hiding her face as she did in New York, Osaka beamed with joy at a win she said was still sinking in. Osaka is the youngest woman to win back-to-back majors since Martina Hingis in 1998 and the youngest #1 since Caroline Wozniacki in 2010. Meanwhile, these are the results of the games today in the NBA. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I am 1 with 25.
The groundbreaking superhero blockbuster Black Panther won the top prize at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, a major boost to its campaign for Oscar's glory next month. Black Panther also won for Best Stunt Ensemble. Chadwick Boseman, who plays the title role in what was the top-grossing film in North America in 2018, explained the film's significance alongside his co-stars, nearly all of them black.
Because we knew not that we would be around during award season or that it would make $1 billion, but we knew that we had something special that we wanted to give the world, that we could be full human beings in the roles that we were playing, that we could create a world that exemplified a world that we wanted to see.
Glenn Close.
Now, Glenn Close solidified her frontrunner status in the race for the Best Actress Oscar with a win for her searing work in The Wife. So far this award season, she has also won a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award.
I think we have to remember how powerful that is in a world that is consumed with different size screens. That the power that we have are two human eyes looking into two other eyes.
Rami Malek and Bohemian Rhapsody.
And for Best Actor, Rami Malek starred making turn as Queen frontman Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody was rewarded over Christian Bale's work in another biopic as former U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney in Vice.
I thank Queen and Freddie Mercury. I get some power from him that is about stepping up and living your best life, being exactly who you want to be and accomplishing everything you so desire. And I feel that, and he allows us all to feel that. So this is again for him. Thank you very much.
Celebrates her.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and we're one with 25.